Healthy parents are wise and kind power gods. Unhealthy parents allowed a child to be the power god, and we have a screwed up family hierarchy. And Salvadore Minuchen showed in his work that if you have a child in charge of the family hierarchy, it screws up the family. Parents need to be in charge. Or a parent will get all egalitarian, say they have a green bias with this child, and they'll try to negotiate kid out of certain situations rather than setting boundaries. I was working with a family once about 30 years ago, and the 7-year-old just kind of took over the session. Da-da-da-da. I said, well, but I got all green with him. Da-da-da-da. He said, yeah. Well, why? But why? Okay. Finally, his father, who was, I don't know why I was doing family therapy when I wasn't a parent. I was an arrogant, I was smart, but I was arrogant. The father finally got up, took the son, and led him out of the room. He took charge. That kid needed to be directed. Now, as kids get to be 5 and 6, an interesting thing happens. They want to be a member of the family. And to be a member of the family, they need to follow the family rules. They want to be included. Big deal to be included. And their brains now are concrete operational. Now at 5 and 6, when the pruning goes on, the kid develops new capacities. One capacity is to have autobiographical narrative. This child now can see himself as a figure in his life story. Previously, starting around 18 months, a child can have memories of the past, but doesn't have a sense of his life story. Around 4 or 5, he has a sense of, my life. But around 5 or 6, there's me in my life. That's called autobiographical narrative. And me in my life, it's really important for them to be a member of their family. It's a big deal. And they follow the rules. Natural Republicans. Okay? It's true. It's like, I want to follow the rules are sacred, and I want to, a member of my family, the people that follow my rules are good, and the other people aren't. And this is, we were talking about the whole McCain thing. How people in the audience wanted him to say they're evil because they don't believe what we believe. And McCain wouldn't do it. Which is, I'm glad he wouldn't do it. But, Bush had no problem doing that, and he got elected. It was a brilliant strategy for, basically, Karl Rove was up here cognitively, down here morally. And he said, I will use my understanding of this to manipulate people's consciousness. And so if we tell them that they're breaking the rules of the sacred book, and we tell them that they're breaking, that they're costing money, and we tell them that these people are starry-eyed dreamists and what's in it for you, more of them will vote for us and we'll win. And he was right. And that worked for him. Bush was losing his political stuff when he first started. And Rove took him off alone for 2 weeks into a hotel. And they had come to Jesus, Karl Rove, George Bush time. And what happened after that is Bush never went off message anywhere he went. The conversation was, you're my hand puppet and I'll get you elected. And Bush has continued. He's to be a hand puppet. It was very effective in terms of getting power. It was very ineffective in terms of governing, because hand puppets aren't good governors. Apparently. Now, understanding lines and levels, Karl Rove is brilliant in this area. He was low on the moral development, which brings us to, as kids go up through worldviews, they can have different levels in different developmental lines. And these are just 4 of them. There's other developmental lines. There's a kinesthetic developmental line. So there were little Chinese girls. I don't know how old they were. They said they were 14. Okay, they were 11 years old, but kinesthetically, they were way up here developmentally, in their gymnastic capacity. Beyond what I could possibly imagine in my wildest dreams. But let's assume relationally they were probably around here someplace. Cognitively, probably around here, moving into formal operational. Morally, probably here. Care and rights for people that they are in their immediate groups, but not for other people, and so on. And when we grow through these developmental stages, and I'll talk about worldviews again in a second, but when we grow through developmental stages, we don't skip stages. And we only go in one direction. That's what defines the developmental line. You go from stage to stage to stage. You don't skip stages, and it only goes in one direction unless there's regression, generally as a result of trauma. So these blue 5 to 11-year-olds, they follow the rules. They're included. You know, they get to be kings of elementary school. But then there's another major neural pruning that happens at 11. And I just found out recently that there's another neural pruning process that happens in adolescence, which I find fascinating. And explains some of the cognitive changes that we see at 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds. This neural pruning that happens at 5 to 11 gives kids the capacity to be formal operational. They can hold competing concepts simultaneously. They can inhabit what-if situations. They can think critically. Then they start questioning. They start saying, did Moses really part the Red Sea? They start saying, well, you know, why should I not drink? They start saying, well, why shouldn't I be sexual if I want to be sexual? Give me a reason. And we start having these arguments. And those teenagers, any of us had teenagers as kids? We had these arguments? You bet we have. Formal operational.